All right, my friends. So here is our plan for this evening. While everyone who's with us in person is assembling the last remnants of the sushi, or we got a lot of remnants to go, I'll just give a little bit of an overview of what we covered last time, and then we'll jump into tonight's topic. We are at part 3 out of 3 of our mini series on Zmanim. So in the first installment, or installation, I don't know which word. I was kind of disappointed. No one came with like a staple gun or a power drill. I was waiting for that to happen last. Everything else went very smoothly. That's Jonathan Yeshikoach and over on the installation committee. Very good job. The best part about last night was while everybody, gets up there and like, oh, Rabbi Kurt's this, Rabbi Kurt's that. Marissa's sitting next to me and she says, "Don't worry, Moshe, you're not that amazing anyway." Don't let it. She's like, don't let it get to your head. You still know how to put a bag in the garbage.
Well, she'll give you lots of practice.
Yes, yes. Sounds like thank you. Okay, that gives me less pressure. um, anyway, so in the first installment of the series, we talked about Zmanim for the morning in terms of putting on talis and tefillin before the proper Zman. Zman is a term you're going to hear a lot. Prescribed halachic time. So if you need to write it down because Zman will be coming up many, many times.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Since I don't go on spilling, is that something I should look at going, well, that's the first time you can it?
So very good. So there's I'll put this very briefly. There's 3 milestones in the morning to look out for. Well, several milestones. There's Alos HaShachar, which is the crack of dawn. If someone's in very tight circumstances, that's generally the earliest time that anyone can do anything. We talked about maybe we can even push it earlier than that. That was this year. Then there's Misha Yakir, which is not really relevant for your purposes. That's the earliest time for talis and tefillin. Then there's Neitzachama, when the orb of the sun begins to come up, and that is the ideal time to say Shemona Esrei, but there's something called a Vasikan minion where people coordinate that, but it's not really viable for a typical community that just wants to have a standardized time that people can coordinate around. And then, so, moving past that, we have the Zman for Kriya Shema, the latest time to recite Shema, and the latest time for reciting Shemona Esrei, which is relevant for anyone. So that was the first installment. The second installment, which was last week, we talked about how do I define the end of the day as it pertains to Shabbos, as it pertains to fast days, as it pertains to basically any halacha, any mitzvah that is dependent on nightfall. So we had a whole range of discussions. So let me just very briefly rehash Ramosha Feinstein's theory, which means I also have to briefly rehash the basic theory of how it works. So it's basically a debate between the Vilna Gaon and between Rabbeinu Tam. For our purposes, they are both very big, important rabbis. That's all you got to know about them. I mean, there is interesting biographical information about them, and actually, we'll get to the primacy of the Vilna Gaon soon. The Vilna Gaon is also the Gra, so if I use them interchangeably, it's the same individual we are talking about. That's actually, if you're ever in my office, the painting I have over there, that's a painting supposedly of what the Vilna Gaon looked like. I think my Uncle Heshi gave it to me. Probably it's a bar mitzvah present or a birthday present or something. So, and I still have it. So now it's a nice picture of a rabbi in my office. I'll eventually get the Ramosha Feinstein photo in there at some point. I told Marissa, I said, she's like, every time my birthday comes around, she says, oh, what should I get you? Should I get you a new tie or this or that? So I told her, I said, this time she got me new hokas, which I really needed. I need to get new hokas, and those things are expensive. By sending it next time, if I don't need new hokas by then we should go ahead and get the Ramosha Feinstein painting. So, oh you guys don't have to worry about that. I told Marissa, you can no worries. I have to keep that a secret. So that wasn't like a cry for help or anything. I wasn't trying to drop any hints. Oh yes, Hanukkah's coming. It's a good point. So very briefly, according to the Vilna Gaon, 3/4 of a mill's 18 minutes, 3/4 is 13.5 minutes, is the time between sunset until nightfall. For those 13.5 minutes, it is twilight. It is what we call Bein Hashmashos. According to Rabbeinu Tam, it is actually the amount of time it takes to walk 4 milin, which is 72 minutes. Hence, that's how we get the 72 minutes of Rabbeinu Tam. But then came along Moshe Feinstein and said, wait a minute. These aren't, there's no magic number of 72. 72 minutes, 4 mil, is just the estimate of what it generally takes for it to go and get completely dark after Shkia, after sunset. Well, maybe back in Europe it took 72 minutes, but he says here in New York, New Jersey, and in the mountains during the summer where I went, so he says that it takes about 50 minutes. And it can take between 41 and 50 minutes depending on the time of year and location. So that probably applies to us as well. And in fact, when I made the Zmanim for the shul for when Motzei Shabbos is, I went based on Moshe Feinstein, which I think the my Zmanim folks worked it out backwards. They said, well, what degrees does the sun have to be at to hit at 50 minutes in New York? And I think they figured out it's 8.5 degrees. I have no idea how to measure degrees of the sun, but they figured it out. And then they basically just take the 8.5 degrees principle and they apply it to other locations. And that becomes Ramosha Feinstein's Shita. Such is my understanding. So what happens is, though, once he condenses 72 to 50, and 4 mil now becomes effectively 50 minutes, that means the 3/4 of a mil, the 13.5 minutes, also shrinks to just a little bit over 9 minutes. I think 9.3 something or another. And this is very important because while it sounds like Ramosha Feinstein is introducing a novel leniency that we don't have to wait 72 fixed minutes until Shabbos ends, it also is a bit of a stringency as well. Because let's say for a woman who wants to go to the mikvah and she wants to do her hefsek tahara and she wants to start counting those 7 days, so she has a grace period of shkia until bein hashmashos. But if bein hashmashos, if twilight is no longer 13.5 minutes, now a little over 9 minutes, that actually presents a stringency. She has less grace after shkia, according to this theory. So yes, Rabbi Wiener.
I'm stuck a little bit on the definition of a mill.
Yeah.
Mill has no connection. It's not astronomical, observable. There's nothing in the heavens.
Right.
It's the time it takes to walk a given distance, a reasonable distance.
Yes.
And it's nice to have that amount of time before Shabbos. It's not enough time to actually do something before Shabbos, stop, and then Shabbos starts.
Right.
So when you talk about reducing that time from 70 to 4 mil from 70 to 50, the mill still is 18 minutes because that
Very good. Yes. So that's a correct point. So Rabbi Wiener's pointing out that a mil is a distance, and we assume it takes 18 minutes to walk 1 mil. And according to some opinions, it's 22 or 24. And that's how, he was saying, if, some people, they want to keep 72 minutes, but if you want to be super machmir, what's it like? I forgot, like 96 minutes or something. Someone could do the math. It could get you till, yep. Okay, good. So I don't have to check back.
As the day gets longer or shorter.
So that's exactly. So that's the fixed minutes here. That's like, when Chazal, when it says in the Talmud 4 mil or 3/4 of a mil, that's like halacha Moshe Sinai. Moses came down from Sinai and he came down and said 4 mil, and that's it. So that's one way to understand it. The other is that they were just giving the measurement for what made sense in their region. And so, yeah, it's not really about the mill. The mill is more just a reference point that we're using. The important thing is the other Gemara that says we wait until there are 3 medium stars, and we're machmer for 3 small stars out in the sky. And then the mill measurement was just a way of quantifying that. But there's no inherent sanctity and kedusha in a mill one way or another for these purposes. So I think that's what he would argue. The mill is just a rule of thumb.
I was just wondering how far a mill is. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
It's about 0.6 miles.
How much is a kilometer?
It's about, okay, that's almost a kilometer. It's 960 meters.
Yeah, so it's just
it's
a little
almost
short of a kilometer,
yeah.
it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
a mill's about a kilometer.
So
How long,
distance somebody could walk in 18 minutes.
how long does it take?
18 minutes.
Well, I'm curious, how long does it take to walk a kilometer? We have AI. AI could just give the shear at this point, guys. Just like put it. Just put it to Google. How long does it take on average, how long does it take to walk a kilometer?
Also the gate.
How long does it take to walk a kilometer?
Probably like 10 minutes.
No.
Here's an answer.
Oh, I thought
that
that was Laura. That wasn't the AI. Your parents thought that was the AI answer. How much was it? All right, whatever. So, well, you'll tell us when we get it. This is still a review. Everything we've said until now, my friends, has been a review of last time. So the important thing where we pick off is that we're on page 4 right now. And Ramosha has basically asserted that when it comes to Shabbos, because Shabbos, the stakes are so high, if someone deliberately violates Shabbos, then they get the death penalty. So that's pretty bad. Yeah, but we can't practice it nowadays. Back in the good old days, it's like people say, back in my day, we used to trudge uphill both ways back and home in the snow. Yeah, bare feet, whatever. It's so basically it's back in the good old days. I already told you my little shtick about the missions. I told you all my shtick already. Guys, I told you about the Afghanistan mission. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm sorry. Chazar is the ikr, they say. I mean, it's I don't know if it's a story so much, but it's my theory of what I hope to do one day, tongue in cheek for those listening later on YU Torah who don't understand my sense of humor or lack thereof. So, in my previous shul, God bless their souls, they loved going on missions all the time. So first, I think it started off, you go on like a mission to Israel and you cook some food at the barbecue for the IDF soldiers, very nice. And then it became like a mission to not Moscow, mission to Morocco. And then it was like a mission to Italy. So I was always like, I get on the mission to Aruba or something. So what I realized was mission became Lashon Nakiv for an educational vacation, which is fine. Like educational vacations are great, but like what? Oh, it means like what's euphemism. Thank you. It's like a laundering it, it's like so I just, and this is like in Teaneck, they go on, all these shuls go on their missions and whatnot. I'm like, guys, are you missionaries? Are you like, a SEAL team or something, going on a mission? Like, are you taking out Osama bin Laden? Like, what's a mission? Okay, so a vacation, like an educational vacation. That's good. So anyway, I always had this idea that when I was a kid, when we would go on school trips, sometimes the Judaic studies teachers, the Rebbeim, had to chaperone. So we get to the farm, and the Rebbeim would see like them milking a cow. Like, oh, the halachos of milking on Shabbos and Schita and squeezing and this and that. And oh my gosh, the 39 malachos, all the things you can't do on Shabbos are coming to life. It's beautiful. Gewaldig. So I said, maybe we should get a shul mission to Afghanistan. We could see the Taliban in action. You could see Maseches and Makos and Sanhedrin come to life. The 4 death penalties, Arba, Mises, Beast, Bastin, Skila, Sripa, Harry, Mechanik, see Malchus and lashes being done. Wow, that would be quite a mission, guys. Who's signing up? I'll be the rabbi. So that was I have no idea how I went down this path over here, but anyway, we should get back. Yeah, thank you, Mo. I have no idea what this had to do. I'll figure out how we got here. Okay, let's bring it in. So the Gra and the Rabbeinu Tam. All right, they have their machlokas. The truth is, this tshuva was dated to I think the late 1970s. I think it was 1979. Now the truth is, there was a tshuva that actually was a precursor to this. This is the last source on page number 4, and it is. I don't think I put a date. No, there's a date in there. It is 1950. It's Hanukkah, so that's be 1956. 1956. All right, so we're talking over 2 decades earlier, where he already made this assertion that in America, we take the Vilna Gaon's smaller twilight, l'chumra, stringently, and we take Rabbeinu Tam stringently as well. Oh, you found my sheet.
Or is this your sheet?
No, that's not mine. I don't have good handwriting. I don't have good handwriting.
This one is Eileen's.
That was not mine. Oh, thank you. Oh, no, wait, no, this is not mine either. No, this is not my handwriting.
Thank you.
Someone else's sheet is over here. Is it Mayor's? I don't know.
Could have been.
Somebody wrote in Hebrew here also.
Oh, that's probably the mayor.
Okay. No, that's not my handwriting. We'll find my sheet eventually. Anyway, so he says on the end of page 4 Ki ma anachnu lahachriya bein harim gedolim. Who are we to settle an age-old debate? I mean, the Gra and the Rabbeinu Tam, just so you know, these two people who are who are locked in combat, in halachic combat with each other, they lived many generations apart, actually. Rabbeinu Tam is medieval times. He's one of the Tosafists. The Vilna Gaon was only a few hundred years ago. He was alive during the Declaration of Independence, if I'm not mistaken, that's something I always found fascinating in my education, in which it always felt like Jewish history was on a separate timeline from world history. So it's always interesting to know, like, oh, during the Second Temple, so the Greek philosophers were, overlapping during that time. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's not some like fantasy world. It's actually all part of the same existence.
Shoot first, where about Purim.
Yeah.
And Achashverosh being so stupid, making decisions while he was drunk.
Yeah.
And both Herodotus and Tacitus
Oh, you're good. She's good. She remembers my podcast better than I do.
spoke about the crazy Persian custom of making decisions first when you're drunk, so there's no inhibitions and everything comes out, and then reaffirming it when you're not drunk.
It's part of the culture. She's talking about an interview with Rabbi Avi Hoffman, who is the assistant rabbi, Rabbi Spivak Shul in West Orange. And actually, I was talking to one of the Muhlenberg students, Yael Fink, who's from West Orange. Her parents just came, and we're like, "Oh, we should bring in Rabbi Avi for Shabbos." We're always looking for how do we bring in some bright, up and coming stars who also won't bust the shul's budget at the same time. So take note over there, Lee, our head of adult education. We have some adult ed represented here at the table tonight. Very good. Good. That was a good pitch, Marsha. I like that. Okay, so he says, who are we to decide between them? Aval hagra hu basra. But this is a fascinating assertion. Rav Moshe Feinstein, on the one hand, was not beholden to the later authorities, but he makes an assertion multiple times in his chuvos that the Vilna Gaon, he was the final authority. Even though he's the final authority, we're still careful to extend Shabbos later for Rabbeinu Tam. But I just wanted to note that. Now, why do I think it's interesting to note that he says that the Vilna Gaon is the final authority? It has many ramifications. But if you now go to page 5 and you look at a tshuva from, I think it's 1981, right? So now we're at the 1980s. We're at toward the end of Rav Moshe's life, toward the end of his tshuva writing years. Right, this is Yordei Chelik Dalet, so I think that means from the 8th volume of Igros Moshe, which was published posthumously, not mistaken. So here, I bolded it. In Osches, he references Igros Moshe Orach Chaim Chelik Dalet Samach Beis. That was the massive tshuva we learned last time that I just summarized. And at the end of this tshuva over here, he writes, Vimhayu gan harbe mitamidav shasu kamoso lo inhigo came ba'alma. Okay, this is important. So here's the question. If the Vilna Gaon is the final authority, and the Vilna Gaon holds, according to Rav Moshe Feinstein, that twilight is a measly just over 9 minutes, then why do we care about Rabbeinu Tam? Why do I have to be so, machmir? Why do I have to be so stringent? Why don't we just say the Gra is the final authority? We'll take his stringencies, but we'll take his leniencies as well. So this is what he writes. This is a fascinating assertion. I don't know. His father was a strong follower of the Gra. He says that many of the students of the Gra did not necessarily practice and instruct their students to follow him on all matters. Gra atzmo lo hinhig kain. And even the Gra himself, according to Rav Moshe Feinstein, did not instruct others to abide by his time. Af lo be'iro Vilna. Remember, he's called the Vilna Gaon. He's the great Torah giant of the city of Vilna. So even in his own city of Vilna, supposedly he was not, right? Because you think about it, what was Vilna like? In Vilna, where they ending Shabbos 9 or maybe let's just go 13 and a half minutes after Shkia. Basically, by the time Mincha ends, you have to quick Shabbos David. Okay, Berachas Hamazon. Rabbi doesn't speak. Okay, Mar V'Hurachum. Right, Shabbos is basically over by the time you sit down to Shalosh Shudas. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing, right? And then you wouldn't have to hear me speak another time over Shabbos.
Especially during the winter.
Yeah, especially during the winter, right? We can knock out the rabbi's speech. Rabbi Wiener won't have to suffer through my classic Raka and the Gunim as well. I won't be able to talk about the Noda Yehuda, how he lambasted the Hasidim and all. That was a Shalashos exclusive. It's actually going to be on the podcast soon. Also, that's why I was learning, because it's not. Yeah, it's not. You're going to give the rebuttal at this Shalashos. You're bringing all the Hasidic sources. The edition of the Noda Yehuda I have has an anthology in the back of the later response of literature that then quotes and sometimes disagrees with him. So I'll have to bring that up next time. So anyway, he says, "V'yadinan shegedole ola mitamidi tamida v'chmir b'zed lo kagra." All the people who are staunch followers of the Gra, for some reason, they didn't follow him on this one. Even for lower stakes, such as the positive mitzvah of Kriya Shema, and even for the time of when to daven Mariv. And if we remember historically, don't tell me when I said this, Mariv originally was a reshus. It was a voluntary prayer. So the stakes are relatively low. The kol shekelin Shabbos Yom Tov. So he says, L'chein elanu lasses b'zeh gra b'motzei Shabbos. So certainly we should not be getting out easy with just with 9 minutes or 13 and a half minutes at the end of Shabbos. Rather, we go through Rabbeinu Tam until nightfall according to him, 3 stars in the sky, and that is what we paskin. Okay? But here's the reaction to Rav Moshe. I also found in this early tshuva from the first volume of Igros Moshe, it's a continuation from what we saw earlier, back to 1956, that there were some people who, he already had quite a resume. Like, people already highly respected him, but people were willing to push back a little bit more still. So here's the tshuva. Apparently, there's a fellow, Rav Shalom Halevi Kugelman. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. That he takes a look at the luach, at the list of times of Zmanim in Mesivta Teferes Yerushalayim, Ramosha's yeshiva, and he says to Ramosha, "I think you miscalculated everything." Yeah, a bit of chutzpah, right? So Ramosha responds to him. He says, "Umasha kasav yididi, my dear friend, that was your writing that you think I mixed everything up. Shahaluach shal yeshiva inam adukduk, that we were imprecise and we calculated the zmanim for the yeshiva. No, there's no mistake. In fact, I'm the guy who wrote it myself. You're looking at the man." And he gets into some of the technicalities of how to basically measure how the hours at the beginning of the day aren't necessarily the same amount of hours toward the end of the day. I don't want to get too much into technicalities on that one. It's not our topic. But he writes in the bold, in the first paragraph in the second column on page 5, he defends himself. He's like, trust me, I know how to write Zmanim. I was the Rav in Luban for many years. They didn't have Rav, right? So think about it. Rav Hankins Luach. We use that Luach from what do you call Ezra's Torah. That's the one that the Gabayin that I have that we all use to quickly, like, when's the Molad? When do we say Kiddush HaChodesh? All those things. That, in case you're wondering, if you think I have the whole calendar in my head, I'm not that smart. I have this luach that I look up, and obviously when there's more complicated questions, then I refer to other svarim. So that luach was Rav Yosef Eliyahu, who was the big posek in America during Rav Moshe's tenure and also preceding Rav Moshe's tenure. So needless to say, Rav Moshe, I don't believe, back in Russia, had the Ezra's Torah luach to reference. In fact, it says in the Man Malchi Rabbanan, the biography in the 8th volume of Igros Moshe, that one of the last things he did before fleeing Luban for America was that he wrote a luach for them for many years to come. That way he left them with a parting gift. So at least they'd know what the Zmanim, they would know when everything was, until hopefully they found a new rabbi to take over. It'd be interesting. I'm not really sure what's going on in Luban these days. I think it's present-day Belarus, and I'm not sure how Lukashenko is doing over there with the Jewish community, but there was an interesting BBC interview with him some time back. He's a funny guy, but that's for another time. I had this idea, by the way. I was gonna I was gonna say because the mayor kept coming, like he came Rosh Hashanah and he came to the event last night. So it'd be like a real shame if he wasn't reelected after all the work we did. So I mean, I think he's gonna win anyway. He's running a Democrat ticket, so it's an urban area, so chances are he's gonna win. But I was like thinking of putting something out there. I was gonna say, I don't give political endorsements. But I was gonna put a picture of him from last night, say, but I'll just say for everyone that he looks really good in a yarmulke. let you draw your own conclusions. I don't know. Would I get in trouble for doing that? Yes. Okay. Oh yes, from the MAGA crew. Yes. Oh okay. We get in trouble with them anyway, no matter what we do. But that's just called being a Jew. You exist as a Jew. What?
You don't want to.
Yeah, you're right. We don't want to get him too close to the Jews. We'll get him in trouble. We're already grateful. I guess if a picture of him with a yarmulke gets around too much, then some of his constituents might not be too happy. Then there's also an Israeli flag behind him in the picture as well. So we got to be careful with that.
A big Arab contingent.
Yeah. Well, I am hoping to go over to the folks over there on the South Whitehall and come with some ruglach or something and say, here's our tribute. We'll see how it goes. If anyone wants to join me for a trip over to the mosque and go say hi, let me know if you want to join the
If you
crew.
bring Ragala, you gotta be careful.
I got to bring Joe for protection.
You gotta be careful.
Joe's vetoing.
Rabbi Krupkin invited,
Yeah.
a long time ago, he invited some Muslims.
Sometimes in
So
order-
things are a lot.
But in order to invite people over, you first have to meet them, and then okay. Anyway, this is for another forum, my friend.
A baked good. I can't eat anything with vanilla in it because it has the alcohol.
Wow. Okay. I have to put this on our kasher shear for next time. We'll get to that as well. Okay. So here's what I thought was really interesting about the tshuva. So Moshe Feinstein is an immigrant to the United States. And he says, I came to this new country and in New York and New Jersey and the mountains. So it looks like it gets dark at about 50 minutes past sunset. So listen to this fellow over here. This is the final paragraph. Masha kosev yedidi. So that which my friend here is telling me, she'aviv haravshi, that his father, hayed she. Anyone know what the next word is in the bold? After hayed and then hayed in the bold font. Shebe Ellis Island. Put that on the transliteration sheet. Shebe Ellis Island, when he was on Ellis Island and was immigrating to the United States. Hayaroa harakia mazir harbe yoser mishava chomesh acher shkia. He said it was still light outside for at least an hour and a fifth after sunset, well after 50 minutes. So Ramosha refutes this and says, look, there could still be, even in the times of the Gemara, it's possible to see some faint light that's still there, even after official nightfall. That he refutes it. But what I thought was just so amazing about this line, it's a throwaway line over here, but thinking about this Jew who just escapes Europe or Russia, and he leaves his whole life behind. He's coming with hardly anything. He doesn't know what his future has in store for him. And he's sitting there on Ellis Island waiting to be processed or whatever it was like. And what's on his mind? Looks out to the horizon and says, when is Teitzah Kochavim? When can I say Kriya Shema? Right? Those are the holy Jews who immigrated here to the United States. That's what's on his mind, is how do I determine what Shkias Achama is and what Teitzah Kochavim is. That's remarkable. That's what keeps us going throughout the ages. So that to me, actually, that little throwaway about the observation outside, I know Ramosha refutes that at the end, but you just got to think that Madreg at the level this individual is on, that's what was on his mind, as his whole life was thrown asunder. And that's what he thinks about sitting on Ellis Island as the sun is setting. Beautiful. I think it's similar, if I'm not mistaken, Halachic Man, where Soloveitchik talks about his father or grandfather, it's been a while, that basically they look out the sunset, and he's like, most people just see a sunset, but I see a chalei shem shkias achama. I see all these halachos that are flying everywhere. There was on Twitter, there was this guy who was a mathematician. He posted a picture of someone going down an escalator, and he's like, how regular people see it, and then how mathematicians see, and then shows all these equations of everything and the escalator and this and the window. So then someone made a halachic version of it, and so it's like Dofen Akuma with this, and then Loved with that, and like all the different halachic principles of how to build, an Erev and a Sukkah, and like how a Lamdan, how a halachic expert sees the world. All right. Anyone ever watched The Matrix? Okay, so that's after. So it was the basic principle was like all of humanity is inside this matrix of, and everyone's is just basically zeros and ones when you get down to it, which maybe that's true. Anyway, so yeah, okay. Who knows? We're all made of atoms and stuff, so you could kind of put it down to a little.
Intuitions is that we're inside a black hole.
Oh yeah, I saw that one as well. That I never got how we're inside a black hole, because I thought everything gets crushed inside a black hole. So how does that work? Then we get shot out through a white hole, and then that creates a new universe, and they got all sorts of fancy theories. From it. Yeah. Try not to think about that too much. Anyway, so I always like to give a little pushback on Rav Moshe. Even though I'm a big fan of Rav Moshe Feinstein, it's important to have some sort of intellectual balance and demonstrate, part of how we could appreciate how Rav Moshe was somewhat revolutionary is to show you the pushback that he got on some issues. Now, perhaps due to a lack of research on my part, I didn't find anyone who directly pushed back against Rav Moshe Feinstein himself personally on this. But I figured if we ever need to find someone who's going to disagree with Rav Moshe, who do we go to when all else fails? The Satmar Rav. You could always count on the Satmar Rav to disagree with Rav Moshe Feinstein. I think the only thing they agreed on was they both banded together to oppose Gia Spanos of women serving in combat or serving in the military in general. That was the thing that, and then mixed swimming pools in Yerushalayim or something. So you could always kind of rabbis game together to oppose mixed swimming and mixed dancing. Like that's like the one unifier that brings everyone together. Mikamcha Yisrael. So I bought this sefer when I went up to the Holy Land of the country, as they call it, upstate New York, with family on a summer vacation. And of course, if and you're in these very Hasidish and from areas, I look for the Sfarm shop. The family went out to pizza, and right next to the pizza shop there was a Sfarm shop. I'm like, this is great. Okay, I'll go. I'm trying to stay away from the carbs anyway, so you guys go eat the pizza, and I'll go get my Sfarm. So I found this sefer of Rav Moshe Sternbach, who is the head of the Eidah HaCharedas, of like the major Haredi umbrella group it makes it sound very sinister, in Jerusalem. And he has all these reflections of his seniors, of rabbis that he interacted with. And one of them is a nice little chapter on the Satmar Rav. So, and then what caught my attention was, as I was thumbing through it on a Shabbos afternoon, I saw the following title to a section, Mecha ba'anashim she'enam shomrim zman Rabbeinu Tam, where he protested, he objected to those who don't hold by Rabbeinu Tam. And I just got to read this story because this is just great. So we're on page number 6, second paragraph. So there's this fellow Rabbi Amram who says to him, Shachil Shabbos b'Yerushalayim Yara Kodesh Misraba, that it's a terrible thing. There's a lot of Chilul Shabbos, a lot of people who are breaking Shabbos in the holy city of Jerusalem itself. V'ma'argin hafganos l'kavod Shabbos, and he wanted to get the Satmar Rav's support for organizing protests in order to stand up for the dignity of observing Shabbos. And if the Satmar Rav himself would join in, Yavo Kahal Rav Davar Yasser Roshem Rav. And if the Satmar Rav would join in, then certainly it would behoove others to join in as well. So you wanted to get the Satmar Rav support. Harevi Shol, so Ezechil Shabbos Yisham. The Satmar Rav asked him, wait a minute, what kind of Chilul Shabbos, what kind of desecration of Shabbos are you observing? Heishul Rabbi Amram. Rabbi Amram says to him, Hachanuyos, v'amasados, v'tiatros, shalem poschim b'Shabbos rachman al-tzlan. All the secular people, they have their stores, their restaurants, their theaters are open on Shabbos. Hey Shelo HaRebbe, the Satmar Rav responds, why do we have to worry about the Chilul Shabbos that the secular people are committing? V'halo hacharedim mechalim Shabbos b'far hetzia. The Charedim are also transgressing and denigrating Shabbos. Insert gasp over there. What? What do you mean? Podem Seisa Shabbos l'tas Rabbeinu Tam. Many Charedim reading Shabbos before the Zmanim of Rabbeinu Tam. Shishitas Rava Poskim, that the majority of modern day authorities have signed on to. Now, if you're willing to set up a hafganah, to set up a protest, to stand up to those who are ending Shabbos before the Zman of Rabbeinu Tam, ani yashtatef, then I'm going to join you. And he says to him, but what do you mean? The minhag is, the custom now is that people don't hold the 72 minutes anymore. But the Satmar Rav responds to him that the word minhag, mem nun hey gimel, spelled backwards, is Gehenna, hell. And this erroneous minhag has no weight in the halachic process, according to him. And he even says that apparently there was a Gedolei Harabanim Admorim V'Rashi Yeshivos of America. All the big rabbis in America got together in New York. V'chlitu lahachmer be'erev Shabbos me'ashkia b'motzei Shabbos mizman Rabbeinu Tam. And they came up with the following agreement, right? Because if you, let's just say you are a Rabbeinu Tam purist, so then when everyone else is starting Shabbos at what we call sunset, you could technically wait, what was it, 58.5 minutes later if you're going with fixed minutes until the time for Rabbeinu Tam. So while we are hopefully getting out of shul, I would hope by then, after finishing Mariv, so-and-so is still just wrapping up and only starting Shabbos at that point. So they made an agreement that we're going to start Shabbos at Shkia of the Gra, and we're going to end Shabbos with Rabbeinu Tam, so we're going to extend it on both ends. But he argues that the keeping Rabbeinu Tam is minhag Yisrael dor hu halacha v'yavshel l'chok l'shanos. We're not allowed to change this. Now here's the thing, though. My colleague Roy Ben Kyle pointed this out to me. Moshe Feinstein here is not arguing against Rabbeinu Tam. If we recall, he was very adamant in several of his tshuvos that we're not allowed to rely on the Gra alone, that we have to be machmer, we have to be stringent and extend Shabbos later for Rabbeinu Tam. He just simply says that Rabbeinu Tam is not fixed minutes. Rabbeinu Tam will be adjusted based on location. If it gets just as dark in Europe in 72 minutes as it does in America in 50 minutes, so we go at 50 minutes in America. So no one is arguing against Rabbeinu Tam. He's just arguing over the interpretation of the application of Rabbeinu Tam. And this is what he does, by the way, in perhaps his most iconic, right? If I were to take a random Jew off the street and say, what's the most important ruling of Moshe Feinstein that you remember? What would they say?
Nothing.
Okay. I hate to say this. One time I was teaching at a modern Orthodox summer camp. I won't say the name of it. And I was teaching middle schoolers, and I decided to do a lesson on role models. So I printed out a picture of Moshe Feinstein and Rav Soloveitchik. And I said to kids, these are Jewish leaders over here. Do you know who they are? And they're like, oh, is it Ben Gurion? And I'm like, well, Jewish religious leaders. And they're like, oh, is it? They see the beard. Is that Herzl over there? And I'm like, no, like you've never seen this picture before. And then I say, this is Rav Soloveitchik, and this is Moshe Feinstein. And they're all like looking at me like I just came off of Mars and fell off the moon. And I'm like, you never even heard the name of Moshe Feinstein? Like, and I didn't say this to the kids. I'm like, your parents pay a lot for day school tuition, and it's like one, and then like they didn't know, no one knew Moshe Feinstein. And like one kid was like, oh, I think I may have heard of Soloveitchik or something. I'm like, you guys go to a modern Orthodox school. You never heard of like the godfather of modern Orthodoxy himself? So I was, so you're right. Unfortunately, you could take some Jewish kids off the street and they haven't heard of him either. So like we got to spread this class to all the different schools. When I went,
But that's okay. The calculation of your 30 doesn't have to
Oh, or they don't want you to know who he is. That's right.
Just a slide.
Oh, well, yes, the guy, he was a slaveholder, exactly. All right, but where was I go? So okay. For those who are in the know, what would we say? What was his most iconic?
Israel.
Thank you, Chalav Yisrael. So that you go anywhere in America virtually, and you could drink milk, and as long as it doesn't say otherwise, we're assuming it's kosher cow milk, and we're all good to go. So Ramosha, and that everyone calls it Chalav Stam, meaning this idea of Chalav Stam. Chalav Stam means that it's the opposite of Chalav Yisrael, not the opposite, but it means it's not under the strict supervision. It's just standard milk. The truth is, Ramosha, that's not his argument. Many rabbis before him already argued that Chalav Stam is okay. The brilliance of his argument is that what we would call Chalav Stam, like lower supervision, not Jewish supervision milk, is actually Chalav Yisrael. He just interpreted the qualifications for Chalav Yisrael differently than almost everyone. And when we do that tshuva, we'll get into the nitty-gritties on that. So he does the same thing over here, my friend pointed out. He doesn't say we don't keep Rabbeinu Tam. He just interprets Rabbeinu Tam differently than the Satmar Rav and most people would have understood him, just like he reinterprets what Chalav Yisrael is. So it's like you can't beat him, join him kind of thing, and then just adjust the parameters on that. So I thought that was so the Satmar Rav is making this argument like, how can we change the minhag? How can we go against Rabbeinu Tam? I thought we had an agreement, guys. And Ramosha's like, no. I'm still playing by the rules. We do hold by Rabbeinu Tam, but I just understand Rabbeinu Tam differently than you do, which I thought that was brilliant on his part. Okay, I realized that there was another little section over here that I was going to do on airplanes in Zmanim. Do I have 5 more? I got 5 more minutes, right? Enjoy. Take more sushi, guys. Take more sushi. Okay. Let me just I will try not to banter and make all of my my terrible attempts at humor that take us off tracks, and try to get this last piece in over here. Something I want to leave you with is that Rav Moshe also dealt with perhaps one of the most common questions of Zmanim that come up is traveling on an airplane on a fast day. What do? Now, Baruch Hashem, you can now go on myzmanim.com, and myzmanim, as the name suggests, is a website all about Zmanim. And on the Zmanim website, it has a function that you could basically, I never tried this because I haven't been in a position, but you could punch in, did you use that one? So you could punch in your flight number, and then it will calculate for you what the Zmanim are throughout your flight.
Because you can alter the place.
If you delay by 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it'll change.
Oh, really? Oh, do you have to pay for it, or do you have to pay for this function, or wow, me compensator.
Check out other places.
Yeah.
Other times, any zone.
Yeah. So here's the thing: they didn't always have this function. So they asked for Moshe Feinstein in I don't have the year on this, but he died in 1986. So suffice to say, the MyZmanim function didn't exist. This is before the .coms and all those things were on the market. Not to date anyone. Oh, sorry. Here it is. Tufshin of Motzi Yom Kippur. Tufshin. Look at that. By the way, that's why I love noticing sometimes. Like, what am I doing on Motzi Yom Kippur? I'm just stuffing my face. Notice how this tshuva is dated on Matzeh Yom Kippur at the end of Yom Kippur. Like he just like went right to writing tshuvas on Matzeh. Isn't that remarkable? Like I remember reading this. Like sometimes just like reading the dates on when these tshuvas are written is a musar, is a lesson to itself. So that's I didn't notice the first time I read it. Like Matzeh Yom Kippur, that's what he's doing. 1968, Tafshin Chav Ches. So 1968, that pushes it back even further. They definitely didn't have it. So what does he say? Kasha lahasha b'zeh. It's difficult for me to answer this. Ki ein al zeh mekorim mamashim midivrei rabboseinu, because we really don't have a precedent for this idea in rabbinic literature. Utzarach ladum b'zeh rak misvara. And he says the best I can do. Now, here's the thing. When Moshe Kurtz, when I give you an idea and I say I'm just gonna give you an idea that makes sense to me, that doesn't mean anything because it just means I don't know Shas backwards and forwards and I didn't read enough, and that's probably why I don't have a good answer and I'm just making something up on the spot. If Moshe says I don't have a good basis for this. I have to kind of give you my intuitive assessment. It means he just ran a scan through all of Shas in his head, which he went through like at least 202 times based on the story, but I think even more. And all the poskim, and like, he ran like a full search, through all of Shulchan Aruch and all the commentaries on there. And he says, after scanning through everything in his head, there's no basis for this, so I'm gonna have to give my best shot at it. So that means something when he says he's gonna give it, right? It's like if like op-ed columns. Like, what's an op-ed column? An op-ed is just a bike story. You give an opinion. Great, shkayach. Why do I care about your opinion versus someone else's opinion? Give me a study where you actually did some research that actually counts for something. So he says, look, he says on a fast day, it's not about fasting 24, 25 hours. That's not how it works. It's about daylight requires you to fast during daylight. Once it is nighttime, it is nighttime. And that could be to our benefit or to our detriment. So if you are traveling to Eretz Yisrael, it goes faster.
Yes.
And if you go from Eretz Yisrael back to America, you're going to be fasting for much longer, according to him. There are different opinions on this, by the way. I put in at the end, well, you can't get the hyperlink, but the Star K and Rabbi Jachter both have their nice synopses of this question. There are opinions other than Moshe on it, but for sake of time.
Quick mention, Rabbi.
Okay. Yeah, so here's what fast is over. There's a nice little summary of this in Rav Aaron Felder's Moadei Yeshurun in English. You want to see on page 7. And the final thing, we're not really going to address it now, but I'll just tell you very briefly, is the question of Hagomel, if you go on a flight. So we can even, this is the final source, Yadalin on page 7. Airplane, im sarich levarich Hagomel, kishaya b'yom shakat below shum chesaron b'mechuna. So let's say you just have a nice smooth flight, mild turbulence at best. Do you have to make a Hagomel blessing? We know you make a Hagomel when you go on a ship and then you arrive in port and you survive. You make a Hagomel. So what about on an airplane? So because I realize I'm in overtime, I'll just summarize it briefly. He basically has two different arguments, but he says that an airplane is certainly no worse than going on a ship. If the ship were to cease functioning and there would be a hole in it, it would sink and it'd be hard for people to save the people on the ship. If an airplane stopped functioning, you'd fall out of the air and things would be everyone would probably die. So he says it's no worse. So his opinion is that we do make a Hagomel. And just the nice little line that I really appreciated, which unfortunately, the safer that I put together in Ramosh and Pirkei Avos is supposed to go to print tomorrow, so it's too late for me to add this in. I'll have to be in a second edition if I am lucky. But he says the Chial Chesed Katan Lo Nodela Shemisvar Shasi Manu Chesed. He said if you're going to say what's the big deal? Of course the plane's going to function. Why do I have to thank God for it? He says what? Do we are small acts of kindness from God not worthy of our blessing of Hashem? So he says, so you make a Hagomel on the plane also. That's his argument that he makes. If you're interested in this particular tshuva, we could dedicate another session to go through the entire tshuva on it. There's more details to it, but I'm already well in overtime. So I appreciate you all coming. This officially concludes our Zmanim series. And God willing, next week, I think we'll try to do Thanksgiving, which will take us probably 2 sessions. That way we know what we need to do for Thanksgiving or not to do on Thanksgiving.
Jonathan
Comment,
said,
Rabbi.
Take care, guys. Have a good night.
Quick comment.
Oh, yeah?
Quick
Yeah, go for
comment. East to west and west to east. There's a reason for it, for the time.
Yeah.
You were talking about time. When you go
Because
from
of the sun.
Israel to the US, you're going against the wind. It
I like
takes
that.
longer to get back to the States, but going there, it takes 2 hours less. Approximately.
If I were, like a super wealthy or retired guy, I would just like book flights on the fast days and just, that's maybe, yeah. Maybe when I win the lottery and retired and I could just like schedule all my flights on fast days to Israel, it'd be great.
Yeah, get a Learjet.
Exactly. Like those like mega church pastors have their own private jet somehow,
Exactly.
Right when we turn this place into like the big number. I don't want
We'll
to turn
do that next month. We'll do that next month.
next month. All right, good night,
Good
guys.
night.